There's really
Maggie.
Chandra.
Okay, you were supposed to be at home. You're not at home. I'm seeing a car behind you. What the heck? What is going on? This is feeling
Yeah.
not perfect.
Yeah. I life happens. I got called down for an unexpected meeting. Thought I left with plenty of time to get home to do this with you and pulled over on the side of the road because there was traffic and such is such is the life we lead. So
That's it. I swear,
that's it.
you couldn't have made this up. It's exactly it's supposed to be, right? So I don't want to lose a second of your time, and I also want to keep you moving. But first, I have to say, hey, girl, hey. I said that I wasn't going to say that, but I have to because I look at you and I go back to a point in time where, for real, like what you're sort of navigating with the pivots and the shifts, it resonates for me because that was going on. I think it was business school, and we both had the
Yep.
audacity to have multiple children, a growing corporate career, and quite frankly, you and I bonded immediately because we also had the privilege of husbands who
Yes.
recognized our potential and, in some ways, I won't say sacrifice because I truly don't believe that was the case for either of them. They chose unconventional approaches to support us and their belief in
Yep.
us and our families. And girl, I don't even think I realized at the time how incredibly blessed I was in that. I mean, have you ever thought about that?
I think about it all the time, and I think about it again recently because I just said yes to a little side job that means a lot to me and I'm passionate about, but it means more time away. And this morning was one of those examples. So, who's carting around the four kids to the baseball and the soccer? Like, that's my husband. And he didn't blink an eye. It was like, okay, we're going to miss you, but if you want to do it, go for it. And I feel very, very lucky that I have that support.
It's so good. All right. So look, I want to start this. When I thought of you, Maggie, immediately I thought of the fact that, well, talking to Maggie, who has this wonderful position of influence and leadership in the financial industry in an amazing city, I think one of the best cities in America, for
Agreed.
an impressive and world renowned company with a very vocal and present leader. Like all those
Yep.
things just line up to you.
Yep. Yep.
So immediately I started thinking about all these questions that kind of went down that lane of finance and blah, blah, blah. And I think it hit me very quickly when teasing this out with you that the conversation for us, very much aligned and adjacent to finance, is empowerment of women in their
Hmm.
careers. And I think that it lines up so neatly to just being empowered in general and how that
Hmm.
neatly goes along with having options in life and taking risks that are calculated and seizing opportunities without being held back. And so, does that resonate for you? Is that okay? Can we just kind of take that journey? Because if so,
Totally. Totally.
yeah.
Totally. I mean, I think, yeah, for women in particular, the taking risk thing, I think, is a really big topic. Like, I more and more see how um, much more willing the male gender is to kind of lean in and take a risk and try for something, and how much more sure women feel they need to be before they do something. And I think, that's something we should all be aware of and kind of embrace, and then maybe push ourselves a little bit to step outside of the comfort zone. Um, because I think we're ready for a lot more than we sometimes realize we are. Um,
Mm.
so encouraging everyone to kind of lean in, I think, is I've just seen so much of that recently that if that was one message I could convey, is kind of push ourselves to lean in a little bit.
I love that. So let's take it back a little bit. Um, when you started your career in finance, did you fully appreciate the power and position you were bringing just with your your offers that you walked in the door with, or was that a process of becoming the proven leader that you are?
No, I had, right, I had no idea. I mean, gosh, I started in a training program, so my first job was just to learn the job I was eventually going to do. The job I was eventually going to do was be a commercial banker for companies. Um, but at age like 23, I was asked to go out and bring in business, go get these companies to come work for you. And I'm like, why would they work with a 23-year-old woman who has never run a manufacturing plant and doesn't know anything about their business, you know? So no, I mean, I entered the workforce feeling like, I don't know anything about the real world. I've been a student, my entire life, and had no idea what I brought to the table, and probably brought, much less than I do now, just given the experience. But I think it's a learned thing as you go about life. I think that's the other thing is it's very easy still to focus on the stuff you don't have or the stuff you feel
Yes.
you aren't as good at.
Yeah.
And I wish I had learned earlier on to like lean in and appreciate the things I did have and did bring to the table. Even at 23 years old with those business owners, fine, I didn't have the experience, but you know what? Like I always called them back. I was
Yes.
very reachable. I followed through on every commitment. I didn't know the answers to most anything, but I'd find them out and I'd come back, and in the end, that was of value to people, and
Yes.
so, but it took me a long time to figure that out and have the confidence that that what I was bringing was enough.
At some point, too, you realize that something is becoming a theme, and that is you're being consistently pulled into rooms and situations to do what you do. And I think it was that piece that really started to get me to say, well, hang on here. If they're seeing something to keep pulling me in,
Mm-hmm.
I own actually stopping, pausing, and figuring out just what that is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
asking the question,
Yep.
why? Why am I here? What was your evolution to the place where you went from I'm doing a good job, I'm working hard, I'm being pulled in the room to I know who I am, I know what I offer, and I know what I'm packing. Do you remember that?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I do. It took, I think I would call that, I'm sure there's been a number of them, but I think the moment that comes to mind most readily is because I felt like for the start of my career, up through that first management job, like while I was ambitious and I wanted the next thing, I also just constantly felt like I really had to prove myself, and I got that
Yes.
first management job, and you feel like, oh God, I'm like younger than the other people in this room, and I'm the newest manager, and I have to like be extra, extra good in order for these people to take me seriously. And, you just feel kind of like an imposter. I mean, it's a very real thing, the imposter syndrome. Like you feel like, I don't know, like, should I be here? Did I earn this? Whatever. And I think, that first assignment I had as a leader and manager was a very big turnaround situation. In retrospect, it was probably smart of the firm because there was very low risk in putting me into it. There was nowhere further to go down, right? But we ended up having a hugely successful turnaround. And, by a year in, like that team had become the top ranked in our system. And I think that's when I finally was like, okay, you know what? Like I I haven't accomplished, like it's like I felt like I had a resume, it's like I have a tangible accomplishment under my belt. And so now, like, if I feel like people don't think I'm qualified or aren't taking me seriously, like I had built enough, like in an innate kind of sense of accomplishment, and felt like, you know what, um, I kind of know what I'm doing. But it took like having that achievement. And I think that's what's difficult when you're working towards that achievement,
Yeah.
is like continuing to give yourself like the positive reinforcement that like, no, we haven't achieved what we're trying to yet, but that doesn't mean that you don't belong in the role, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have confidence in the meantime.
I think that when I reflect on this generation, as I spend time with, my oldest child's peer group, they bring a clarity about what their magic sauce is that is unbelievable to me, because I know for sure that it took me a while to be able to articulate that. And I think they have almost the flip situation going on, because where I didn't have that articulation early on, I just knew that I was going to work hard. I was going to learn everything. I was going to listen intently. I was going to watch. I just knew that I was bringing a mindset to it. They, however, come in with all the things that I think I would begin to unfold, right? And so if anything, it's the reverse situation. They're coming
Are they
in.
being taught that? Like, how? Like,
So
are they being taught to give that thought? Or do you think that's,
I think it's I think
okay.
we raised them that. I feel like my peer group has raised this generation to have all the deposits that maybe we didn't have. And the other thing too, I think that I certainly did, you probably too, giving them the opportunity to try so many things so
Yep.
that they're, even as younger people, they have an articulation of, oh yeah, I tried that, I'm not good at that, but I am good at that, right? There's so many opportunities for them to sort of see what fits, where
Yep.
I feel like the generation that raised me, with multiple kids and being a working woman and pursuing higher education and, mom and dad and great upbringing and all the things, but still their thinking was, well, they're the kids, we're the adults, and they'll figure it out, right? They'll go outside, they'll play,
Yep.
they'll figure it out. Whereas we're a little bit more I felt like we were a little bit more strategic on behalf of our children. Now, the flip side to that is, I think when it doesn't work, their resilience seems to be a lot more fractured than mine was, for sure. I feel like my peers, right? Because we skint our knee and nobody was home to like put the band-aid on it, right? So, you just did it. Whereas I feel like this new generation, sometimes they skin their knee and that resilience takes a little while. So they have that self-advocacy to begin with. And it's the pivot to figure out outside of that. I mean, when you think about self-advocacy and you think about your own success in leadership, how did you develop an articulation of self-advocacy and really owning your offers and being confident bringing those forward? And did you ever have a situation where it didn't work out so well?
There've been tons of situations that haven't worked out so well. I think for the self-advocacy part, like, to me, I think self-awareness is so huge. And I feel like very, very fortunate that early in my career, I worked for a company that did a lot of training, and so a lot of the training would be around learning like who you are and how you operate, so like what's your, you've heard like Myers-Briggs personality test, things like that, but you basically start to realize like, oh, I'm the way I am, and there's people who are totally different ways, but these are my strengths. And those things really resonated with me. Like, I have learned a lot from various different assessments. They're all very consistent. I'm a very specific type of person. But what also resonated with me is,
are you ESTJ?
Yeah, totally, 100%. ESTJ all the way.
ENTJ.
But, okay, yeah. So like what you learn, but like there are really good things that come from an ESTJ personality, right? Like, you get things done, you are efficient, you are results oriented, you are all the stuff, and then there's things you're not as good at, like you can come across as less empathetic. People can feel like you're kind of like a bulldozer, and so, but I think once you kind of learn all of that and you figure out what your strengths and areas for improvement are, and that, then it becomes much easier to articulate to others and to self-advocate, because you're describing what it is you bring to the table. You can humbly admit what you don't, or where you focus on improving. But I think self-advocacy is best when you understand, like, these are the things I'm good at, these are the things that I enjoy, and you kind of can lean into that. things that didn't go well. I mean, I can tell you that the one that I always use when asked about this, and there's a million and 10 examples, but I think the really stark example is so I had a series of leadership jobs after that first one I talked about. And because I had, done this turnaround thing, every assignment I was getting, we had talked about this, I remember when we were at Kellogg together, every assignment I was getting was another turnaround. Okay. So in assignment like 4, it was another turnaround. The last one, they yanked me from it after a year. I was like, I at least want a year to enjoy the work I did, but no, they throw me into the next one. We were still getting our MBAs.
Yep.
I had a ton on my plate, right? 3 young kids, new job, getting an MBA. And so I just kind of went in, and it's like, I know the playbook, I run the playbook, I know how to, you got to turn all these things around, and you got to come in and blah, blah, blah. And so I just got to work like right away. And like 6 to 9 months in, like I had not seen the shift that I would have expected or that I had seen at that point in time in my other assignments. I'm like, I don't understand. Like I'm doing all the same things. Like why is it not working? And so I think it was like 9 months. I'm like, I can't get to a year in this and not figure out why this isn't working. So I asked my boss to like try to suss it out for me. And she went on like a listening tour of team members. And what came out, which was really, really like hard feedback to get at the time, but I've learned so much from it. It was like, basically Maggie came in here like a bulldozer and didn't get to know any of us or understand our business or understand our, team or our approach or whatever. And it's all business all the time with like all this, criticism. We never have fun. We don't do anything, nice and blah, blah, blah. So like, that was really hard to hear. But it has been probably the most valuable lesson ever because you can see exactly how it happened. That's the potential downside of my personality type, especially when you have other factors and stress and things going on. So I will never make that mistake again. Every new job I've gotten since, I go in and it's like 90 days of learning before we're going to take action. And I think the lesson was you got to get people in the boat with you before you ask them to row,
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I went back
to ship, right? I mean, I think it's
fellowship. That's exactly right. And I mean, I went to that team, which I also am proud of this. Like I went to that team and just kind of fell on the sword. I was like, this is what came out of, our understanding here. And I'm very sorry. Like I, in retrospect, I wish I had come in here differently, blah, 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 asked for a reset, started doing things differently. And then within a few months, things started turning around and we had a great year. So like it all worked out in the end, but I learned a very, very valuable lesson, that has kept me very humble ever since.
I tell you, I have a similar story as you know, and I think that is a priceless story, right? Because we can fall into this place of like rote behavior. Like I do this,
Yep.
this comes out on the other end. And it's so easy, especially when we're super, super, super busy. But unpacking that, I think it becomes a superpower, right? Because you understand people and you understand the system and the problem solving.
Yep.
And when you can marry those
Yep.
two together, I truly believe that's what amplifies some of us to great heights of influence and opportunity and privilege to lead. And some of us start to get sidelined, right? Because we forget that. It does not mean we still get it right, right? Because I think for me, it becomes every new assignment, every new team, every new any community, right? It becomes a new opportunity to understand the culture. I think that's
Yep.
that's
Yep.
what I take away from your learning too. It's understand the culture. And then when you understand the culture, I think it's easier then to figure out how to advocate for yourself and how to increase your confidence. Have you ever found that your confidence was shaken and you needed to figure out how to pull it back up again? I mean, have you ever run into that in your journey?
Oh my God. Yes.
What do you do? How do you get past that? Because I think that, you know, it's we blow past some of those things sometimes, but I believe that, you know, in particular in this time where systems are being shaken and rocked and and some people are straight up brand spanking new out of school and they're trying to figure this out, right? What would you tell them? What kind of nuggets would you share?
I mean, I think the most important thing you can do, and I have learned this over years, and looking back, I think I did this not intentionally, it just kind of happened, but now I do it intentionally. I think you need to have your own little group of cheerleaders.
Mm,
And like, because what I found is, and these jobs, these jobs get lonelier and lonelier, right? And at some point you're in a big enough job that, like, I don't know, I don't really expect my boss to tell me all the things I'm doing well. I don't get a lot of praise. And he's for sure gonna tell me about the things where we're falling short, and that's fine. I've kind of come to expect it, but it is kind of nice to be built up every once in a while. So I have
every now
like my
and
little group of, I have my little group of cheerleaders, right? They're just people who like have come, I mean, they're friends of mine. They're you, right? They're people who I have gotten to know, I have relationships with, and they also think the world of me, and they like, I would call you or anyone else in this little group if I need like some pumping up, honestly, and they'll do it. Like, so I think, um, I think that's really important. And I think, like, innately, early in my career, I had a really, really difficult stint in a job with a very difficult manager who was just so, like, I felt like I got berated every single day. And you start to be like, oh my God, like I thought, yeah,
Is it
I thought
me?
I had gotten
Is
to a
it
place where I
me?
brought value, but
Yeah.
apparently I suck. But I became very close with a couple other people on the floor during that time. We'd grab coffee. They just felt so bad for me, but they'd kind of help bolster me up. And so anyways, I think it kind of happened organically, but now I can put words to it. And it's like, you need your own little personal group of cheerleaders, I think. And, listen, sometimes you're a young professional. It could be your parents, it could be your, college friends. My husband is like, we talked about that earlier. He's like my biggest cheerleader, but you need people who are going to like pump you up when maybe you're beaten down or not getting pumped up by really anyone else.
So I'm going to say the bold leap that this conversation on empowerment is very much aligned to the products that you sell and the things that you do in your core business every day. Am I wrong there? Because there's a whole new conversation around women and women in our relationship with finance and risk taking and investment, that I think some of these same themes of what you learn and what sets you apart in the end, are kind of right in the same lane. Am I off on that?
No, no, totally. It's all the same things. I mean, there are trends both on the client side of things and how women think about or what they do or don't know about wealth, money, all of that stuff.
It
And
can
then
be intimidating,
risk.
Maggie. It really can.
It totally, totally. And in many households, like, that just hasn't been their role, but 80% of women are going to have to run their family finances at some point because we are outliving men. There's divorce, there's other reasons. And so we know that population is hugely important. We talk to them differently. Like, we have events that are specifically aimed towards the female demographic for exactly that reason. The conversations are different, their concerns are different, and their risk parameters are different, which also leads into kind of the working part of the finance industry and how women being more risk averse, there's less of us in investments and areas like that. So and just like when we make a recommendation, we always want to be very thorough about all the reasons it might not work.
That's right.
Whereas a male will just give his recommendation, and because so we're learning all of these things as we go, but a lot of the same themes apply: confidence, risk taking, feeling empowered, feeling self-assured, being able to self-advocate. All of that aligns with the financial side of things too.
Wow. Do you think that there is a shift or a change in the career lane of women in finance for all our girlies that are, it's graduation season if you're listening to the podcast in time of taping, and you've got a whole new breed of Chantras and Maggies that are coming out with finance degrees and otherwise, and they're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. What would you tell them as they start to walk into their career that you wish you were told? Or because you see the trends and the movements, you want to tell them just to underscore what they may already know?
I certainly hope that yes, there will continue to be more and more women in finance. I think generally speaking, there's a few things that are really hopeful in that regard. And one is how some of the advancements that have just been made in society, whether it's ability to work remote or even something as easy as like your groceries can be delivered by Amazon Fresh, right? Like your grocery shopping can be delivered to you. Like there's a lot of things that
We did not have.
when you look at why, yeah, you look at why a lot of women end up opting out of the workforce. It's usually because they, or finance in particular, when you had to be at a desk all day long and like they have to run these things in their household. There's a lot of ways to do that now that aren't as time consuming. It's not to say it's like perfectly easy, but it's much easier. And I think because of that, many more people will choose to balance it than completely opt out. The thing that we need to just get better, you need to see people like you to know that you can sit there, and I think like when I started, there were women in leadership. They were few and far between, but there were women in leadership. For whatever reason, in the world I was sitting, they didn't have children, and that just was their personal situations. But I interpreted that as, okay, you have to choose, like either you're doing the family thing or you're doing the big job thing. But like I didn't see anyone who was doing both, And so I do think I want there to be more examples for these young women to see and be able to say, okay, that looks like me and what I want, and I can do that. So we're doing really well at the entry level. Like it's much more equitable, the male female breakdown. But then as you rise up the ranks, it starts to dwindle and shift. And by the time you get, to my level or elsewhere, you're not anywhere near 50-50, and I think that impacts the aspirations and choices that the people coming up, make. So
I think that's good. And I think that's an important point too, because seeing yourself, seeing someone that can just let you have that visual reassurance of what you imagine is possible is actually possible because it's been done before. That is so important. I also think that somehow being as clear as you can at the moment that you're in right now on what it is that sets you apart, that makes you different, is real, and what's important to you, what your values are, I think is really, really important. Because just kind of double clicking on what you said, there are so many tools that are available now to allow you to extend your bandwidth, extend your productivity. It's increasing the amount of choices that you can make, right? And so what are you going to do with that? How are you going to position that? That's right on. All right. So look, I got to get you on your way because you're still driving places, because that's what you do. But I have rapid fire for you. I want to ask you a couple questions, and you gotta make this go. Your favorite app or tool that keeps you on track? What's your favorite app or tool?
Email.
Email.
Outlook.
It scares me. It frustrates me.
It does.
Overwhelms me.
It enables, but you know what it is? Without it, like I'm doing this all the time. I'm in the car, I'm between the games, I'm between the meetings, and like my email enables me to keep up with the job and like keep things moving even when I'm all about. So I couldn't, it's like a lifesaver.
All right. So then now this is such the great question for you. Inbox 0, dream or reality?
Dream. That's been a dream for years. No, I can't do it. There's so much, I can't do it.
All right. And then this is the last one that I have to ask you, because I know that one of the things that we bonded on when we walked into Northwestern University Kellogg was, I was like, okay, she has some style. I see her. What's your power outfit?
Oh, Veronica Beard.
Yes.
I have two of them. I have a full pink power suit, like hot pink, and I have an orange, like coral orange, and they have the great Veronica buttons. And that's another thing that took confidence. I used to dress in all black, but I just was on 2 panels recently. I wore the pink suit and the orange suit. So I've decided to just really own the feminine power thing.
Yes. True story. You wouldn't know this. That's on my shopping list this weekend. Absolutely.
No way. Oh, do it.
Love her, and yeah, I feel like I need to bring more color into my life. You think
Have you seen the orange? The orange would look so good on you.
Oh, I'm going.
Okay. And they have a vest. They have a vest part and a normal blazer. So I have them both.
There you go. I'm there. You're the best. I love you so much. Hugs and kisses to your family, and I look forward to talking to you very soon. Thank you for sharing with Proven Not Perfect.